He could stop any curse, but not the one inside him. Gojo Satoru was the strongest, a man who touched infinity, yet couldn't grasp connection. But what if I told you? His greatest challenge wasn't a twist of fate. It was the inevitable tragedy of a god who forgot how to be human. Today, I unravel the Nietzschean nightmare behind Gojo's power and the hidden cost of being untouchable. Nietzsche once said, "He who climbs upon the highest mountains laughs at all tragedies, real or imaginary." Gojo Satoru is what Nietzsche once imagined, an Übermensch, a man who transcended morality, gravity, even death itself. A being who didn't just master the world, he rose above it. But here's the tragedy. The higher you ascend, the fewer voices can reach you. Gojo's power isolates him not just physically, but existentially. He becomes untouchable, unknowable, worshipped and weaponized. And like many prodigies in the real world, geniuses, those born to lead, his brilliance comes with a silent tax: loneliness. The world puts its weight on your shoulders, but never its hand on your back. People revere you, but they don't know you. And over time, excellence becomes exile. This is the paradox of giftedness. The more capable you are, the less space you're given to be vulnerable. Gojo could reshape space itself, but not the space between himself and others. In school, he joked the loudest, smiled the brightest, but it was a mask, because behind every laugh was a boy who could never truly relax around anyone who didn't move at his speed. He rarely let his guard down, maybe only with his students, and once, with Guido. And when you grow up that way, always ahead, always relied upon, you begin to believe connection is for the weak, that to be loved is to be seen, and to be seen is dangerous. So you perform, you protect, you detach. This isn't just Gojo's story. It's the secret story of high achievers everywhere. The ones who carry the team, who always know what to say, who solve the crisis and break the silence, but never let their own guard down. Because deep down, they fear what might happen if they stopped being useful, if they stopped being strong. And that's the dilemma Gojo lives and dies with. A man too gifted to be ordinary, too extraordinary to be understood. But if transcendence corrodes the soul, what can restore it? Gojo's blindfold isn't just iconic, it's symbolic. It helps him manage the overwhelming input from his 6 eyes, conserving energy and preventing sensory overload. But like all armor, it comes with a cost. The stronger his vision, the more detached he becomes from the world around him. He sees everything and yet connects with almost nothing. His blindfold becomes a wall between him and his students, his peers, his past. And the tragedy is, he put it there himself. Not out of vanity, but protection. Because when you've seen too much death, too much disappointment, too much of what the world really is, you start filtering reality just to survive. This isn't fiction. Psychologists call it emotional numbing. It's what happens to people who've been hurt deeply but never had the time or safety to process it. They become high-functioning ghosts, alive, effective, admired, but hollow. Gojo jokes, he charms, he teaches. But does he feel? The blindfold keeps him focused, yes, but it also keeps others out. And more dangerously, it keeps himself out. Because when you cut off vulnerability, you don't just silence pain, you silence joy, intimacy, closeness. He can read a battlefield in a millisecond, but can he read his own heart? How many of us do the same? Hide behind productivity, behind logic, behind sarcasm. Because somewhere along the way, feeling became frightening? Gojo's greatest asset isn't 6 eyes. It's his ability to compartmentalize. But even that has a breaking point. Because the deeper truth is this: we don't go blind by accident. We blind ourselves, when seeing too clearly would mean facing what we're not ready to feel. Yet someone pierced that barrier. Someone saw him, not just as a sorcerer, but as a soul. Who was it? And why did it matter? Gojo Satoru is the man who cannot be defeated, at least not by any normal means. He can bend time, tear through space, crush enemies with the flick of a finger. But there is one force even Gojo cannot escape: his own grief. His best friend, Suguru Geto, wasn't just a comrade. He was Gojo's equal, his brother in arms, the only person who could truly understand his power and the weight it carried. When Geto fell, when he chose darkness over light, Gojo's world shattered. This isn't just a loss of a friend, it's a loss of purpose. And the tragedy of grief is this: It doesn't care how strong you are. No technique, no barrier, no power can stop it from seeping into your soul. Gojo's strength gave him everything, except an escape from the truth that he couldn't save his friend, Suguru Geto, whom he ultimately had to confront and defeat. Psychologically, this is the essence of survivor's guilt, the haunting feeling that those who survive do so at the expense of those who didn't. And it eats away at the strongest of them, hollowing out their sense of self, of purpose. Gojo did what many of us do. He buried his grief beneath the weight of his powers. He thought that by conquering the world, he could conquer his heartache. But the truth is, grief is not a battle that can be won. It's a truth that must be accepted. And Gojo's unwillingness to truly face that grief, to feel it, was the very thing that slowly destroyed him. We all know that pain is inevitable, but what we often don't realize is that avoiding it is just as dangerous. Leaders, survivors, those who face trauma, when they avoid vulnerability, they risk not only their own destruction, but that of everyone around them. Gojo's gift was his ability to shield the world from darkness, but in doing so, he became the very thing that could never heal. And as the story moves toward its inevitable conclusion, one truth remains. Gojo's final message wasn't defeat, it was a question. In a pivotal moment, Gojo faced an unexpected challenge, surrendering control and accepting the limitations even he couldn't overcome. Throughout his life, he fought, conquered, and shaped reality with a will so ironclad it seemed invincible. But in the end, Gojo didn't defeat his fate. He accepted it. And that acceptance, that release, was the true power he had all along. We spend so much of our lives trying to control every outcome, every moment, every possibility, that we forget there is another way to be strong, one that doesn't require fighting but embracing. Philosophers like Lao Tzu and Marcus Aurelius taught that true resilience lies not in our ability to fight every battle, but in our willingness to surrender to what we cannot change. It's the art of letting go, of finding strength in vulnerability, of knowing our limits and living within them. In the West, we often see surrender as weakness, giving up, giving in. But in Eastern philosophy, surrender is freedom. Gojo's final smile wasn't a moment of defeat. It wasn't a sign of resignation. It was the recognition that true power isn't about never losing. It's about knowing when to stop fighting. The greatest warriors, the strongest souls, are often those who understand the importance of releasing their grip when it's no longer necessary. And in that release, they find not just peace, but true strength. For Gojo, the battle was never really with the curses or his enemies. It was with himself, his own fears of inadequacy, of being out of control. And in his last moments, Gojo chose to stop fighting, to stop being the perfect sorcerer, the unbreakable force. He simply was. And in that simple acceptance, he found what all the power in the world could never grant him, the freedom to be human. One more truth remains, one forgotten lesson that could save you. When you conquer the world, you must learn to conquer yourself. Gojo's unparalleled strength brought him many victories, but not peace. It wasn't curses that challenged him most. It was the isolation that came with his power. And maybe that's the real danger of power. It blinds you to what matters most, connection. So here's the question. If we're all striving for greatness, what happens when we lose ourselves in the process? If you're ready to dive deeper into the cost of detachment, check out my video about how stoic masculinity is destroying you and how Thorfinn proves it. Because in the end, strength without vulnerability is just a prison of your own making.